Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Morning Market Movers, where we do live analysis for day trading and take a look at hot spots in the markets for today, Tuesday, May 24th. My name is Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me from Keep Trading Simple, Brian Caprice. We are going to talk about a few things today. What do we have going on? Well, number one, we had some economic data coming out of the UK. The pound is getting absolutely smoked. So we are definitely going to be looking at the economic data for the pound and what's going on in some of those currency markets. We are also in anticipation of more economic data coming out here in the States. We've got the same economic numbers coming out in about an hour here in the States. We've got some policy speakers globally, Powell speaking today, as well as someone from the Bank of England, as well as Lagarde from ECB. So we'll get a little bit of perspective on monetary policy globally. And then tomorrow, we're waiting for the minutes from the Fed. So there's a lot coming out. And then I mentioned yesterday the big number. It'll be interesting because it's a Friday right before the holiday weekend. We still have our big inflation number, personal consumption expenditures, the PCE number coming out this Friday. So a lot going on with economic data. Now, we did get the bounce on Friday in the equities. We had a nice extended little bit of a buying session yesterday. However, today the sellers have come back in. Markets are down. Here we go. Volatility is back. So equities getting looking to open weak ahead of all of this economic data. I think people is panicking to take risk off, expecting the absolute worst. We'll see what the numbers actually look like. All right, before I flip it over to Brian and we go through some headline news. Oh, by the way, we are going to be doing a full-blown session today at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. If you haven't registered, I just dropped the link into the chat. Please register. If you can't join, register. You'll get a copy of the recording. But there'll be Brian's going to do a midday, full 1 hour of all the markets, and then also talk about everything for the rest of the week. So not this quick 15-minute hit that we do in the morning. It's the weekly 1 hour session. All right, before we go through the headlines and then jump into the charts, trading involves risk, and it might not be appropriate for everyone. Any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk, and this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. And a quick taste, here the pound's in the second position, so this is you can see the pound getting clipped here. Let's take a look with the pound in the here we go with the pound in the first position, and you'll see how it's just the charts are down. That's a pretty big move down on those economic numbers. There's the yen in here. I'll give you a quick peek at the dollar as well. Yeah, we could see right when that number came out, boop, pound got smoked. All right, Brian, I'm going to, you know what, I got to turn your screen on first. How about that? Let's flip it over to Brian. Let's go through the headline news and let's get into these charts on the pound. I know we're also going to look a little bit at I think, energies, mostly nat gas moving again, and then those equities. Here we go again. Levels in equities when we're making moves like this helps.
Yeah, so we knew that all the PMI numbers this morning would be pretty important. Yesterday we mentioned how 50 was kind of the magic number. Anything above that is considered expansion. Anything below that is considered basically a contraction in your economy. Now, the one kind of glaring thing out there, and it's why we had the movement in the pound, we got to 51.8 in services. Now, services have had a problem in the past. The United States services numbers, you can see, is obviously much lower than manufacturing is. And again, there was some slight adjustments, but people see that and say, it's not so much about what had happened in the past. It's like, wait a second, we're at 51.8. We could technically go below, which shows a contraction in our economy. So that's kind of why it's a big deal. And remember, the pound, their interest rates now, or I'm sorry, not their interest rates, their inflation rate is 9%. Again, very high. They're already 4 raises in, and they're talking about, hey, listen, we could potentially raise again next time too. So that's a continuation now. To keep things in context, the pound dollar is down 69 right now. It's barely even half of an ATR, so it's really not that much movement, and it's already starting to retrace back again. 67 is normal. I mean, the euro dollar is not really great news, and that's up 66. So not really tons. It was a very fast movement, but well within what a daily ATR is. The daily ATR for the pound dollar is 130. Pound yen 144. The daily ATR is 210, and it's already starting to retrace again. So it was a very fast spike, and now it's kind of just retracing as profit taking is coming in. They were a technical level, so although the news came out, it was already in a position where we were looking to kind of do what it did anyway. And again, the news just acted as more of a catalyst. And I'll show you those in a chart. At 9:45 today, we do have our readings. They are expected to be lower than what they were before. So again, that could set things off a little bit, although our manufacturing data has been mixed. Empire State was really, really bad, like -11 last time. And then Philly, which is always tends to be a little bit better, was I think like 3 or something like that. It was positive, but very, very low. Powell is speaking today, and again, we know what this is. It's kind of at this, these are due to deliver pre-recorded opening remarks at a National Center for American Indian Enterprise and Development. So it's pre-recorded. It's probably nothing big. I wouldn't say that this is, and again, that's why, you're like, wait a second, Powell speaking, but it's orange. Not really necessarily the, again, not that population is not extremely important. This is in my eyes, this opinion or this population has got it worse than any other population out there. But again, talking about reservation economic summit and development. Typically, it's not something that is going to move the dollar or the overall markets around.
I just think it's orange because it just doesn't matter. Even if it's pre-recorded, there's such hyper focus that you don't know what's going to trigger the market to do anything, and everyone's just waiting with bated breath for more negative news. That's the environment we're in.
Yeah, I mean, talking about development of reservations, though, like Indian reservations, not necessarily something that moves the overall kind of economic barometer around.
I don't know. Right now, the wind the wind speed in Denver can pick up, and people can decide, oh my God, sell. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe maybe there's talk of alternative energy on reservation lands. I don't know.
Hey,
maybe that's that could move the commodities market. We have Lagarde speaking at 2:00 today, and then 10 p.m. tonight. New Zealand is raising their interest rates 0.5. They'll be up to 2%.
2%.
Again, that puts the pound New Zealand inside of basically the front runner for the carry trade. When you're able to get basically a 2% return on your money, that's better. Nowhere close to what the inflation rate is, but better than what you can get anywhere else. So this is a kind of a big thing for the New Zealand currency. And we'll see what some of their other kind of mentions are. And then obviously tomorrow morning we have a bunch of different people speaking, particularly Kuroda speaking, and then 8:30 tomorrow morning, durable good orders. Again, expected to be less than what they were before, but there is expected to be a revision to what they were previously. So kind of adds things up there. As far as kind of overnight news, you have ECB talking, this is the first kind of news we've gotten. Holtzman talking about a 0.5 raise. That's kind of the first rumblings. It was going to be 0.25, but this is the first person finally. I don't know if Holtzman is going to be the blowhard over there or not.
He's going to catch up to everybody. I mean, everyone's going to 0.5s and 0.75s that we're going to have to start talking about.
Like I said, the ECB has a number of different problems there, and this is something this is kind of why originally when the euro came, everybody's like, this is going to be the world currency. The euro is going to be it. But then every time there's a crash, it's proven why the euro absolutely cannot be, and there cannot be a world currency. Yeah. And again, it's nice to see
the war going on too. I'm not,
and that's why. Yeah, that's why they haven't done it right now. But talking about where is it? Right here. This article in itself, it's considered not a major mover because it's not moving, but it just shows you the problems that they have. Basically, they're still back. They're still on this. You know what? We're just going to do an embargo. We're not going to buy Russian oil, which. That's fine and good, and again on moral or ethical standards, that sounds like a great idea. But even OPEC, who is the main oil producer, basically says that there's no way to produce that. Like, if you want to jack the prices up, we'll gladly sell it to you for more, but we don't get involved in politics.
Yeah.
If you don't want to buy somebody's oil and it's on the market and it goes higher because you don't want to buy their oil, that's your problem. But the EU, the way that it's designed, and this is every time you add a country to the euro, it makes it harder and harder. All 27 countries have to basically agree to set the embargo up. The problem is a couple of them, Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic, they don't, and again, it even says in here, they are landlocked. They do not have borders. They can't ship things into them. So this goes back to, and again, I'm wondering if this is where the Swiss comments about we're not going to be bullied by central banks are coming from are these larger European countries that are definitely have access. Are they now bullying these countries that are landlocked that are going to rely upon other nations? So it's like, wait a second, why are we going to take the reliance from them, the reliance to you guys? Like, it doesn't really help us, It's the same thing. So they need all 27
Well,
people, and they're like, we need alternative
they
pipelines.
have to rely on somebody. So the question is who can they actually trust to, and who do they feel like they can actually trust?
As long as you pay in rubles, you can trust Russia. I mean, it's just whether or not you want to pay in rubles or not.
Until they attack you and blow your country to smithereens.
Yeah, but I don't think the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary, I think they're protected where they are. I think they're probably okay. But it is what it is. I mean, they basically say these are the rules, and again, they want to build a wall around part of Russia, but unfortunately, the majority of people in the world don't live on that side of the wall. So, and again, it does matter to us as well. And right now, even something as big as that, talking about a Russian oil embargo, looking at a chart, you can see that CL is not really doing much. It's kind of just sitting there. It's like, oh, Russian embargo, okay, it'll go up a little bit.
Doesn't care. Yeah,
market's not concerned about it. And again, like I said, he's going to win. He's going to win the Nobel Climate Change Award because of again, we're going to be driven towards these alternative technologies just because they're going to block it. Oil's going to go to $6 a gallon, and people are going to be pissed off about it. And
so that could be his legacy when he's dead.
That is
in the next year or two.
Yeah, he's going to be the one person that had the biggest influence on climate change, through a roundabout kind of weird way.
So, you know what? That's a silver lining. Take this, if that's a silver lining we have to take away from this, maybe that's not such a,
Yep. Yeah. So again, oil not necessarily moving. Natural gas is only up a little bit from where it closed, but we had monstrous movement yesterday. Yesterday morning, literally, like as soon as we were done, we're like, let's pull them back to areas. There's a long here, and again, we were talking about our targets at the top side, right? It sliced through this first one, which had been hit 3 times, 1, 2, and 3. 4 we expect to break. It ended up kind of doing a little hit here and came all the way back up and grabbed their $8.90. It actually came to $8.93. So yeah, and again, when you start talking about we're just going to cut them off, we're not going to need it. Guess what? Nobody else can produce it. So cutting off your nose to spite your face comes into kind of realization there. So again, a lot of movement there. Right now, the VIX is a little bit higher today. It's up 2.4%. All the indices are in the red, and there was an article this morning that says the markets are looking like they're starting to believe Powell, but really from where we were yesterday, we saw the pullback, everything pushed down. ES never got the actual entry. It kind of rallied up and grabbed that second area we were talking about, the 39.47. I'm sorry, 39.74. And then after the roller, after the kind of the reset, it gapped back down again and pushed all the way down. Yeah. So, we talked about this, and again, not a fresh hit it again, and based. Harry Pottered it up, grabbed it, hit it, and then it gapped. It blew through. So, if you're taking that short, you're good. I would say that the short at 39.93 is definitely on the books for today as a probability. If it's able to drop that low, again, there could be something in there. But for right now, we're kind of wedged in those two areas. The 50 is out, but again, this level up top, that 61 is still holding. It has hit a few times, so it's not as strong. But right now, we've got quite a ways to go for that one on not really any great news today.
The one thing I wouldn't be surprised to see is if we did, news comes in looking not as bleak. When you see a gap like that, the markets often like to fill that gap at some point.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. So they could. I mean, the reality is, is manufacturing going to get blown out this month? Not really. I don't see it getting blown out.
Maybe
even
if it's not as bad as you expected.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's saying that these two are getting better right now. Put it that way. Everything is forecasted.
Continue a sell-off. Even if we're going to continue a sell-off, they'll often like to just fill that. I mean, you see that gap there. You don't see gaps like that very often. They often like to just fill that gap, and then if they want to go south, come back, touch that 39.80 level becomes a really important level at some point.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, here's NQ. NQ did the same thing. It went right up to that 50 level. We had this one marked off yesterday. It came back up, and it did the same exact gap in the overnight. It's funny. It actually pushed down into that lower level where we said we have a Harry Potter trade. We don't have the entry yet. It hasn't given us that base. This one was close, but again, you're not going to be trading this at 3 o'clock in the morning. I would say right now, look for this again, and you can even adjust. You can even adjust this one just a little bit forward right to this level right here and say, okay, if we break below that, we still have plenty of room. It actually is short in the trade now. If things turn negative today, and again, more negative than they are, this one actually brings the profit target for 1 to 3 exactly to where we were with the bigger zone. So again, we have a new defined level here, which would be a break of 11,761. YM looks exactly the same. We had the 31,820 yesterday. It did the same thing. It went up, it closed right in that level, gapped all the way down, started the base in the same level. I think this one is still on. So again, had you been watching yesterday, we're good there. And then Russell ended up pegging that level, dropped down, hit it again, dropped down a second time. So you had three different times that you could have got into the same Russell trade. 1800 again, psychological level, area of sellers. Those are magical combinations. And again, you see it hit it here. And actually, I'll drop it down to 15. So we normally do the analysis on. Hit it here, went to profit. Hit it here, went to profit. Hit it here, came up, gap down, hit the profit, and then just continue to roll lower. So right now, kind of the same thing. You can bring it across if you wanted to refine your risk just a little bit. You can kind of bring it right there. Just do it off the top of the body and the bottom of the candle. Drop your 1 to 3 on, and again, also gives you an area where if it starts to get super negative today, there you go. You're pushed all the way to the downside. So again, just another mover there. The currencies right now, again, I guess pound yen would be the one to talk about.
Yeah.
It's movement, but it's not outside. Typically, when we're talking about big moves, we're talking about 1.5 times the ATRs where a parabolic retracement would come in. It slammed it right into an area and then it did bounce right off of it back up again, and it's going lower. And we'll see what the yen does right now. Typically, when the markets are down, the yen seems to be getting a little bit additional strength. Right now, we do have a bit more room to run in this one, so I would say it really is going to depend on what the U.S. data says. And again, it's not that the pound will be moving this now; it'll be the yen moving it around. Pound dollar is another one. You can see it came down and kind of reversed, and it's also finding levels. We know we had sellers down there or buyers down there. Again, as we're lining up for U.S. session, you want to start looking for kind of reversals on this one because, again, we should have data that's somewhat similar. I don't expect it to be much better. I know services is still off. One of my lacrosse parents owns restaurants. He's like, yeah, I'm still 30 people down and just can't find workers.
Right.
It's just not, it's not big for them. CAD is still kind of going sideways. So again, we talked about oil grinding a little bit. It is Tuesday. We'll cover this later. But again, oil inventory report later today if you're able to catch those. And besides that, really nothing else is outstanding. I mean, Bitcoin is up a little bit. Ethereum is down a little bit in those two, but the charts look exactly the same. They push back. And even Dogecoin looks exactly the same. And then bonds today. Bonds started the gap higher, and they're starting to rally back right now. So again, drop it down to your 15-minute. Check out some of these. I would say indices are really kind of the best setups this morning from what I'm seeing. Again, there may be a little bit of reversals, again, depending on our numbers at 9:45. 9:45 is always interesting because you have the 9:30 open. You have the initial response. Everything happened in the overnight.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, it's like news comes in. It's like, oh, God, it goes all over the place. So it may even be worth to see where price is driven from 9:30 to 9:45 if it drives into a level on a lower time frame, handle with like the 35 and 1 strategy, and then obviously look for the reversal ahead of time. But again, look to see what the premium is inside of those contracts, particularly the shorter duration binary contracts. Would be good ones to play. So,
all right. I mean, that's something to be looking at. I want to remind everyone that we do have the full-blown session in 3 hours. So we'll go through all of what happened this morning and then really look ahead to tomorrow where we've got the Fed minutes coming out and what to potentially be looking for across all the markets. Again, lots of economic news coming out this week and expect volatility be in play. And I'm still I keep talking about Friday. Everyone's looking to get out of town, take an extra long weekend, to turn a 3-day weekend into a 4-day weekend. Weather's starting to get nicer again. I think people are chomping at the bit, but we are having that big economic number. And if you have thin liquidity and some disparity on what markets were expecting, we could see some wild swings on Friday. With that, any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Brian and I are also very accessible. Please feel free to email us. Our email addresses are right there. If you've got questions for Brian, by all means, and he's a fantastic coach, you can email Brian at support@keeptradingsimple.com. He is very accessible. We both answer our own emails. And the quick recap, equities looking to open. We gapped on the open last night, which is rather interesting. And we're seeing weakness ahead of some of the economic numbers that we've got and the speeches we've got coming out today. And part of that's based on the fact that we saw those pound numbers, the UK numbers last night. Those economic numbers came in weak. The pound's making a move south. Brian and I will be back here 3 hours. Please come back and join us. The link was just dropped. If you like what we're doing, I always like to point this out. I probably should say at the beginning, give us a like on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you're catching us. We do appreciate that. Otherwise, we will be back tomorrow morning and we will catch you then. Until we catch you next time, good luck in the markets, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.